Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about vocational guidance for the inner city and urban poor. And more specifically, I'm going to be talking about uh, those who grew up as a subset of urban poor and inner city children. And the definition of this is going to be those that don't have the same opportunities, didn't have the same opportunities and advantages available to most children. And now they're at an adolescent stage and they're now looking for career opportunities and just gauging their own interests and looking um, towards their future, and how can we provide counseling to um, this this population. So I think the biggest challenge um, that comes with counseling this population is that a lot of times the environment that they grew up in is very different from ours. So, for example, if I were counseling a client who came from a middle class background, a lot of the same terms and things that maybe I grew up with, I could bring them up, and we would be looking at them through the same lens. And this wouldn't be the case for somebody who grew up in the inner city or from a very poor background. Um, they often don't have the same monetary resources, uh, and they don't. And a lot of times they're subject to greater percentages of mental health in their family, um, as well as themselves, as well as a lot of prevailing attitudes that are very different from what we may be used to. And I think a lot of times if you find yourself um, in a therapeutic setting with somebody who came from this kind of a background, um, I think there's a lot of things that we jump to, whereas we can point out a lot of things um, that can possibly get them on the right track. But I think counseling somebody like this starts it doesn't start from a place of just saying like, okay, well, I know exactly what you're doing wrong and you need to do this and this um, to basically get your life back on track. I really feel like you're gonna have um, more success um, by having a more empathetic approach. Just kind of, first of all, just listening to, letting them tell their story. Like, um, if they have money problems in their house, in their family, why did that happen? What's their history of it? And and I think they're coming to you in in a clinical setting probably because they ran out of options, right? Like they're asking you, um, they don't know where else to turn, and so I think that encouragement and just believing in them is gonna go a long way, and then all those other things it can come, um, but it's just to take them slowly and step by step, and not just to like put too much on them at the start, and just kind of meet them at where they are. And so this is a good time to go into the person environment fit, which you can use the Holland personality types. You can ask them what their interests are, just getting to know them more and gathering more information. Another big thing to take into consideration is education, because um, if we're talking about an adolescent 17, 18 year old who's about to graduate high school, it's important to take into consideration a lot of the articles that I was reading. They're just basically highlighting that a lot of these kids, they don't they've their interactions with teachers and mentors haven't been the best. And so, right here, I have a quote: "Little can be expected if little is expected," which is kind of simple but really powerful, um, in that it's basically saying achievement and success later on is dictated by uh, is dictated by how much people believe that you would be able to do so, and how much them they themselves believe in themselves. Um, you know, you can kind of see a situation where there's like a kid who's maybe showing up late to class, maybe isn't as invested as the other kids, and the teacher goes, oh, there's nothing I can do for them, like they're right. And then a lot of times, even in their families, they say, oh, I'll be happy if my kid uh, just doesn't drop out of school, which isn't a very high expectation. So what we can do for them is we can gauge where they are in terms of their work readiness skills, which is basically their willingness to adjust to cultural demands of a workplace. Like, are they at that place where they see themselves as actually fitting into um, this organization and the culture? Um, if they are at a place where they're saying, yeah, but maybe I come from the hood. What am I doing at like a post office? Like, I'm not going to fit in. People are going to view me differently, and that's going to negatively impact their performance there. And really, we want to, as counselors, we want to get them out of that mindset and just more to be able to see themselves as capable individuals that are able to perform the tasks that are expected of them. And another big part of education is self-regulated learning, and that is being independent and setting learning targets and a certain level of confidence that they can achieve them. And so, self-learning, self-regulated learning is something that we can encourage them to do after we find out what their interests are, what kind of industry they're looking to possibly enter, is just to encourage them to um, kind of maybe make a trip to the store or to the office of wherever they want to work for, and maybe talk to somebody there. Or another big resource is actually YouTube, right? Like, if they want to learn how to, I mean, coding, there can be, but there's so many other things, so many niche subjects that, and people, sorry, excuse me, people are, posting these videos, and they're a lot more accessible and they're more fun to watch than maybe traditionally going to a library or something and doing that kind of research. And so there can be a lot of inspiration and uh, built interest just watching and using the internet. And so I think another very important tool is having them do their own research and finding areas that they're interested in. And so, lastly, things to consider when we're counseling inner city and people from poor populations is that we have to recognize that sometimes their family structures are maybe different from what we're used to. Um, and so, I was reading this article as well, just talking about Donald Super and his his theory of the importance of a male role model, because they are our first introduction into possibly the vocational world. So, his argument was that we come, or dad or even mom comes home from work, and then The kid's like, how did work go? What did you do? Um, the kid basically sees them in their natural environment. So for kids in the inner city and from poorer populations, maybe they see a father who's been incarcerated, or maybe doesn't have a job, and their definition of their definition of what it means to be an adult is like is base could be like having run-ins with the police department, maybe going to jail and not snitching. Like, it's very extreme, but it's definitely a possibility. And so it's difficult to work with people um, with that kind of a mindset, and even more difficult for them to want to seek out employment and just get themselves into that other mindset where you're like, okay, I'm gonna show up to work and I'm gonna contribute to business objectives, can sometimes be like a shift for them. And so what we can do is we can encourage them to collaborate with teachers and community programs that are out there. Um, there was that interview with counseling experts, right? One of the therapists was like, "Hey, did you ever think about asking your teachers and like getting their opinion on where you should go next?" And the client was like, "No, I've never even thought about that." Right? We can be that kind of person to offer these kinds of suggestions and just tell them, just get them started on an action as simple as talking more to their teachers, or going to encouraging them to go to these community programs where they will be in closer proximity to role models and people that might be able to help them. And so, lastly, just the importance of social support, and you know, with this population, they oftentimes do not have as wide of a social network of people that are kind of um, that can positively encourage them. And so, as a therapist, we're kind of we can be um, kind of where it starts from, and from there we encourage them to build their network. Um, and so that's why it's so important that when we're doing counseling, um, that we don't that we're able to give them kind of a window into seeing themselves differently from what their friends or even what their family might see them. I think transformation is can be a big part in counseling and career counseling, and definitely, especially for this population, um, that'd be really good for them. Just going forward, setting goals, and finding employment opportunities. All right. So, practical applications is we want to map out their interests, their goals, and pathways to attain those goals. So this would be where you could use the career wheel flower exercise. We want to encourage them to do their own research, finding role models and success stories. Um, so with a an action approach, right? Setting goals and taking action. We don't want to just talk about things and then have them be like yes, yes, nod their head, and then nothing happens, right? We want these sessions to be productive and also for them to be taking action outside of these sessions. And so it's really important that once you make plans, long-term plans, short-term plans, and midterm plans, that we follow up with them, and that we really confirm with them that this is actually something that they want to do themselves. It's not something that like we're telling them to do, and they're just doing it just because, just saying yes, nodding their head, but they're not actually taking it seriously. And then it's very important that we can be there, to process through maybe unsatisfactory outcomes, right? Like if they sent out a couple resumes, didn't hear back, right? That's that vulnerable time where they're gonna be like, I want to give up now. I want to like go back to what I was doing before. And so it's important to have those follow up sessions and just to be able to just to process and kind of, um, be with them and just telling them how, like rejection happens to everybody. It's not because of them. It's not because it could. I mean, it could be so many reasons why, uh, it wasn't a good fit. But they're gonna immediately point inwards and be like, oh, it's because something that I did, or it's because of all these, maybe like, um, they're gonna find reasons with themselves, right? And we want to limit that, and we want to direct their efforts into, possibly changing course, reviewing their actions. Is there something that they could have done better during the interview? Is there, um, but mainly just keeping like a positive spirit and just knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to get through this difficult part. And so possibly reframing, the things that they're going through and being there with them through successes and failures is going to be a really big part in in giving them in giving them the ability to be able to be more independent, and just in the future to be able to repeat this process that they went through with you on their own. And so that comes with just being on their side, um, not and seeing them for, uh, and seeing them for what they can do, and, not not what they lack or maybe where they are right now. So I don't know if that makes sense. You just, basically you're there. You want to be their cheerleader, right? They you don't You want them to feel encouraged, and you want them to really feel like they can get a job because they can. But it does take effort, and, if they're being down on themselves and they don't actually feel like they can do it, it is almost like CBT where you're challenging, um, their and preconceived notions, and, just getting them to understand that they're capable as well. Um, but I really think that it does come from a place of empathy and not so much like here's a whole list of things that you're doing wrong, and like that, like maybe that, like these are things that I'm doing well, and you need to become more like me, and like everything you've been doing before, that's wrong. I think that kind of approach is really gonna make them more defensive, and, so we want what's best for them, right? We want to see them succeed, and that I think that involves just kind of taking things step by step, not overloading them too much, and, just kind of getting those small victories, celebrating with them, and so that they want to achieve the bigger things as well. So some programs that are out there, there's lots developed for welfare recipients, lots for high school students and children in at-risk environments, and, these promote job readiness and employment attainment, and they're the results of a lot of legislative changes. So that's good that that we're kind of shifting our focus towards these areas. Um, and The purpose of these programs basically utilize the interdisciplinary approach to providing comprehensive services to all the family members, as well as individual case management, job training, job transition, and access to education. And In addition, these services can also provide childcare, uh, affordable housing, as well as reliable transportation, which are all very important things when we're talking about education and also employment. So yeah, just in conclusion, I think I think every the more we try and just kind of see things, bring ourselves down and see things eye to eye with children of inner city slash urban poor populations, as well as adolescents and even those um, that are adults. Um, I think it's just very important to understand first and foremost, not come from a place of just assuming and hearing their story, and then not going too fast, but just kind of giving them that positivity that maybe that they don't have in their life, and just really believing that they can find a job that they can be happy with. They might have different notions of uh, what a job constitutes. They might come into the office saying, "Yeah, I want to." And this is a very young child, but they might be saying, "Yeah, I want to be an NBA star, or I want to, um, you know, do something really big," and which is totally possible, right? And we don't want to like say that they can't, but what we want to do is we want to broaden that area of things that they would be happy with. So for example, like you want to um, be an NBA star, or you want to even like be the president. Like, what are you actually doing there, right? You're helping other people. You're inspiring other people. You're inspiring maybe change in your environment. There's a lot of other jobs as well that can also fit that description, and just kind of getting them to recognize like there's lots of possibilities for you to do what you want to do and find your purpose. And a lot of times their thinking is very narrow, right? So we just want to broaden that, um, and just make them really believe that they can find a fulfilling life. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and good luck. Good luck on taking the final exam.